Hello, guys, gals, non-binary pals, sentient colors, beings of celestial intent, or other. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Lab. And today, I am joined by...
Harper Dutton.
Yes, and for those who don't know me, I am DJ Squared, also known as DJ, also known as your Lord and Master. Alright, so... We're just gonna kick things off here by Harper is going to tell us one of their favorite science fiction pieces of media.
I grew up obsessed with Stargate, the original film from 1993, and Stargate SG-1. You don't like it?
I don't know it.
Oh, you don't know it? Okay.
So you're gonna have to explain this to me. Like, come on.
So Stargate, the film, was completely different than the TV show. The TV show was a spin-off of the movie, but the movie was very serious and touched on very serious topics. It's about space travel. But the TV show is very lighthearted and fun. It has Richard Dean Anderson, very popular in the 80s. I'm seeing some confusion there. But it's a very lighthearted, fun space travel kind of TV show.
It's like, listen, if you say, like, any actors' names, I'm probably not gonna know what you're talking about unless they're super big names. So don't take my
he was
confusion. MacGyver. Okay, yeah, because I will definitely know people more by who else they played rather than
understandable.
You know, it's like me with book authors, or just authors. I'm like, yeah, I know what that book's about. I know what its name and what its title is. I have no idea who wrote it.
I'm the same way.
Oh my god. So, did you like the movie better with this more serious tone or the lighthearted sort of?
I definitely liked the TV show better.
Mm-hmm.
The movie is probably better in general, like
objectively better,
yes,
but it's not as fun.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Richard Dean Anderson in Stargate SG-1 is very lighthearted and fun and just very quirky. In the movie, the same character, I'm blanking on his name, it's supposed to be my favorite. But
we all have those times, we all have those moments.
He's dealing with his son's accidental death, and so it's very dark. But in the TV show, even though that has happened and it's still part of the canon, he's kind of...
like he's mellowed out a bit.
Past it a little bit, and I mean, it comes up throughout 10 seasons, obviously.
Yeah.
It started as a Showtime show, I think, and then moved to Sci-Fi, the network. Trying to think of anyone notable who was in it, but I can't think of their names. So
it's fine. It's fine. You know, we're all sort of... I don't know, man.
Human?
We're all... Well, maybe. I'm pretty sure I'm not actually human. I might be a changeling.
Right.
As I have said before. It's fine, though. That's what science fiction is about. It's about bringing together different peoples from different walks of life. And, oh god. I was going to say something and then I totally blanked. All right, cool.
Well, I was going to ask you what your favorite science fiction work was. What media it was.
It depends on your definition of science fiction. Mm-hmm. I know the last episode I talked about my first science fiction, like my oldest memory of science fiction, and that was Forbidden Planet, the movie, which... You're taking Lisa's class right now, yeah. So you might watch it?
We aren't, but she has mentioned it to us 2 classes in a row, so I'm taking that as a hint, and I will probably watch it.
It's definitely old sci-fi, but I do love it. It's just fun.
When did it come out? What is it about?
Forbidden Planet, it came out, oh gosh, I don't even know.
Decade is fine.
Yeah, probably 70s.
Okay.
Yeah, it's one of those very first, like, really early... sci-fi movies, and it's just this group, this military ship, and they are checking on this one planet because a bunch of the people have gone missing there, and through the course of the movie they find there's this monster on the planet. No one can see it. you can't really tell where it's coming from, but it's still, like, destroying things, and there's only 2 people living on the entire planet. And they're fine. They're absolutely fine, and you'll find out why, during the movie. And that's also the movie that introduced Robbie the robot, which it's like the first robot character, like, in like science fiction canon as far as like movies are concerned. So, and I do love Robbie. He's so snarky. Like, this robot, it's supposed to be, like, unemotive or whatever, but it just comes off as just super snarky.
Pure sarcasm.
Exactly.
Deadpan sarcasm.
No, it's like if Alfred from Batman was a robot,
okay,
he'd probably be Robbie.
Sounds lovable.
He's the best. I love this robot. And then later on in the canon, Robbie comes, like, the actual robot model was reused as a villain in, like, other movies. Like, they're not connected to this one, but it's just funny because you'll see other posters with this same robot, but instead of being, like, the snarky butler, it's the actual villain.
So, did you fall in love with this movie in Lisa's class, or was this something you've always loved?
This was back when I was, like, 7 years old. Like, I watched it when I was super small.
Okay.
My dad is a big sci-fi nerd, so he sort of had me grow up on this sort of history, I guess.
That's exactly how I got into Stargate.
Yeah.
My dad watched it.
Yeah.
My brothers watched it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I didn't get into everything they got into, but that one stuck.
That one stuck. Yeah. That's me with, like, all of my media. It's introduced to me by someone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hardly ever go out and, like, get my own stuff, which sounds kind of bad when I put it like that.
Well, if you trust the people around you, then, that they have good opinions, then why not ask them for all your new media?
Yeah, exactly. That said, my favorite science fiction thing, again, it depends on your definition of science fiction, but I would say the anime Full Metal Alchemist, both the 2003 version and Brotherhood, which came out recently, both of which are on Netflix, would suggest. It's sort of speculative fiction, where in, like, the 1300s, science split, and one universe went, like, our universe went the way of, like, trying to split the atom and nuclear science and whatever, and physics and all that stuff, and the other universe, the one that the show was set in, split off, and alchemy became their dominant science.
Do you explore both realities in this show, or just focusing on the alchemy one?
Just really focusing on the alchemy, especially in Brotherhood. Brotherhood doesn't actually, like, come into our world and sort of make mention of our world. That's in the 2003 version, because both of which are excellent in their own way. But 2003, there's a companion movie that comes with it called Conquerors of Shambhala, in which the main character has, like, at the end of the anime, he came over to our world. Like, he's in our world, he's stuck. He can no longer use alchemy because, I don't know, I guess alchemy just doesn't really exist anymore. And through the entirety of the movie, all the people from our world are trying to get into his world, which they call Shambhala. And it's set in World War II, which is, that's fun. Because it really is that sort of time period. It's very very steampunk style. There's, the level of technologies is very interesting because there's, of course there's alchemy for everything, and there's steam trains going all over these countries and whatever. But there's also automail, which is, like, super advanced prosthetics, limb prosthetics. They actually, like, hook up these metal limbs, like metal and hydraulic limbs, to your nervous system.
That is pretty advanced for World War II.
So, and it's just
This is in the 2003 version?
both.
Okay.
The automail is in both.
Okay.
That's very important because our main character has, through his own folly, lost both his arm and his leg.
Okay.
Well, one arm, one leg.
Same side?
Different side.
Okay.
Different side. Right arm, left leg. And, the left leg he lost by trying to bring his mother back from the dead.
Okay.
Spoiler alert, but the show has been on for over 10 years, so I
Yeah.
think you can deal with it. And his little brother lost his entire body.
How does that work?
Equivalent exchange.
Okay.
They were trying to bring their mother back, and so they had to, pay a price for it. So little brother lost his entire body. Ed, who's the main character, lost his leg. And then he gave up his arm to get his little brother's soul back,
Okay.
attached it to a suit of armor, and that's why Alphonse is, 7 feet tall, even though he's 11
Okay.
at the start of the show. So yeah, he's just a soul in a suit of armor, and that causes problems. But it's such a good show. It's got such a great cast.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't know that anime could be sci-fi.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Okay.
I have made a case. We had a sci-fi anime episode last semester not the last semester we were doing this, that I ran. I would make a case for magical girl animes being science fiction. That most magical girls get their powers either by being an alien or by contact with an alien.
I kind of thought it fell into the realm more of fantasy, but I've never actually seen any anime, so.
Oh gosh. So I'm just going off.
Oh no, that's fine. I mean, it's interesting. I just have never seen any.
Yeah. If you ever need any recommendations,
I know who to call.
But yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun. And then occasionally you'll have the filler episodes, and it's just we're going to take out these two main characters, and they're going to fight each other. Why? Because
Sounds like Dragon Ball Z.
they have a bet going. Whoever wins has to take care of this cat.
Well, does Dragon Ball Z count as anime?
Yes, it does.
I've seen that.
I've seen that. No, thankfully the fights in FMA don't take literal years.
Okay.
No. So that's fun times. What have you seen in her class or read that you've in Lisa's class that you've just really liked?
Oh man. Well, we watched Sunspring the movie. I don't know if you've heard of it, but an AI wrote it. An AI named
Yes!
Benjamin.
I've seen that one. Yes.
And it's hard to talk about a plot because there isn't a discernible plot when you're watching it. But this AI wrote it for a film festival. I think it was a 24-hour film festival. But the acting is just incredible, and they sell you. There's this one scene where the female actress is talking about something, I have no idea what, and I'm sitting there crying in class, and I have no idea what she's talking about. But it was just hilarious, because it made no sense, but it did at the same time. You got invested in this 9-minute movie written by an AI. So I thought it was just phenomenal.
But would it pass the Turing test?
No. Absolutely not.
But if you hadn't known that it was written by an AI at first.
I mean, it makes no sense.
We'll need to do a lot of shit posts.
That's true.
I mean,
There's a lot of stuff out there that makes no sense. But
oh my gosh.
I don't know. It was pretty fascinating. We also watched A Trip to the Moon, which was a silent film. I want to say
yes.
French.
Yes.
French film. It was kind of like colonization.
It's yes, imperialism.
Yeah, going to the moon and killing the aliens. I almost said animals.
Oh, yikes.
But yeah, so that was definitely colonization of the moon.
Yep. Even though the moon had this creepy ass face.
And a dream sequence.
Oh gosh.
It was very odd. It was interesting.
What about that guy who just fell in a vat of acid? Do you remember him?
No, I don't actually.
there was just this random guy who fell into a vat of acid.
On the moon?
Fine. No, before they went to the moon.
Oh, okay.
And, like, they were building the
Because they're
ship.
dressed as alchemists in
Yeah.
the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So it was one of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
They were, like, dressed as wizards.
And
Alchemist wizards, whatever.
I think it was all of the military were sexy women in, like, 1940s outfits or something like that.
Yeah. That's how you can tell this is a future society where it's progressive, because all of the women wear tiny mini skirts.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to do that. That is also a reference to FMA, the 03 version. What is, they're the military. This colonel goes on a rant about what'll happen when he's the Fuhrer.
Oh, okay.
All female officers will be required to wear tiny mini skirts.
Practical. So practical. Heels, mini skirts, pigtails, you name it. Those are practical, reasonable things.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I feel like that's what people said about the woman in the original Jurassic Park, but I have not seen the original Jurassic Park. But isn't she wearing some kind of dirty, as in, like, physically, like, dirt,
Yes.
but sexy outfit while running from dinosaurs?
Yeah, that's always the issue when you're just like, what? Why?
That's Hollywood.
Why? Don't forget, like, the comic book industry, too.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, yeah, why is this character literally wearing a string bikini?
It makes no sense, but
No one knows.
it's Hollywood. It's how they sell their stuff if it's not up to par.
Men. Ugh.
And some women.
Yeah. It just gets weird. Oh my god.
So I actually remembered the character name
Yes.
from Stargate, if you want to know.
Sure.
It's Colonel Jack O'Neill. But, so it's wormhole travel is the whole thing. So they find out that all aliens came from Earth originally, that they had traveled out to the other planets, or human-like aliens. But they find this Stargate that becomes a wormhole, and they start traveling around the galaxy, and eventually other galaxies. There were multiple shows. Not all of them were good. The original was on for 10 years. And then...
Plenty of time for spin-offs.
Then there was Stargate Atlantis, which is what it sounds like. They'd found Atlantis, but it was in space. It was fine.
Seems reasonable.
It was okay. And then there was another one, Stargate Universe, but it was pretty terrible. So it was just awful. They were like stranded on a ship, but there was no progression of characters or plot lines. It's just like they're stranded on a ship in space. So it wasn't great.
It's like, here's this other series that we don't talk about because it doesn't actually exist. It's like the Avatar: The Last Airbender movie.
Haven't seen it, actually.
The show or the movie?
The movie. I've seen the show. Not all of the show.
The movie doesn't exist.
Okay.
The movie doesn't. It just doesn't exist. Ask anybody from the fandom. Just nope.
Speaking of fandoms,
Oh god.
before we started recording this, we were chatting about fan fiction.
Yes.
So, I wanted to talk specifically about sci-fi fan fiction because I tried to write it once, and it went so horribly wrong.
Wait, like fan fiction for a sci-fi AU?
It actually wasn't, and I think that's where it went horribly wrong, and it's almost embarrassing to tell you what universe I was trying to make into science fiction, but it was Nancy Drew.
Dude, that would be awesome.
Because-
Nancy Drew sci-fi. Dude, Nancy Drew space opera.
Yeah,
my gosh.
I grew up obsessed. I mean, I still have like 100 Nancy Drew books in my bedroom, on my bookcase, but I tried to turn it into some sort of sci-fi universe. And so I set it up where she had been captured and she gets out through some magical lever. And then I was like, you know what? I can't come up with the science to back this. I was like 13 when I was writing this.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, I have no formal science education. How am I supposed to write science fiction? And I stopped. But I had all these views and comments, and people were like, what happens? What happens? I never updated it. Like, nothing happens. I don't know.
Is it still up on fanfiction.net? Or like wherever you put it?
I don't know. And I don't know that I want to know. But I was going to ask if you had ever tried to write, I guess you write plenty of science fiction, short stuff for the podcast. But if you ever tried to write a longer length?
Actually, most of the original Sci-Fi Lab at Rec was mostly I don't want to say how off the cuff it was, but it was pretty off the cuff. Like we would pick a theme and then just sort of go.
So like today.
And, yeah, exactly. And well, today is just getting to know you episode basically. Usually we will have actual themes or something, but who cares really? It's just a bunch of people talking about sci-fi because they like it or whatever. No, actually, the most science fiction that I've written thus far is a short story for a. Oh, that reminds me. I need to actually send that into a contest soon. It's fine. But it's actually a sort of science fiction retelling of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Okay.
Except for it's set in the future where, global warming has sort of, like it's a future, like a speculative future of like what will happen during global warming. And basically the entire novum is like, instead of humans trying to fix like their carbon emissions or whatever else, they instead changed their own genetic makeup into
to survive with no oxygen,
or to survive with the climbing heat or whatever.
Okay.
To survive in a much warmer Earth, so they spliced themselves with animals, and then they just go.
This actually kind of reminds me of a story we were reading for our class, and it was. Trying to think. We read 4 all at once, so I'm like trying to sort out the names.
I remember that. You just like
Desertion, I think was the name of it, and they are trying to go to Jupiter. They're trying to colonize Jupiter, and so they turn themselves into, I think, lopers. I don't know if you read this in your class.
No.
So instead of taking the atmosphere with them and trying to find a way to live on Jupiter as humans, they change themselves from humans into the creatures that already lived on Jupiter. So they adapted to the environment.
Adapted, we say, as we talk about genetic mutation, like genetic engineering.
Well, she pointed out that it was kind of unique because most of the time we're focused on how we can change the environment to us instead of change us.
To fix the environment, right. Yeah. Because, I mean, that it definitely is sort of there's the like split between either we have to fix everything so we can remain human, or fuck humanity. I have rocket boots.
Right.
I have rocket feet. It's fine. Like all those. I know I never really got all of those stories where it's like, but if I'm a cyborg, am I truly human? I'm just sitting here like, if you're a cyborg, do you need to use the restroom ever? Important questions.
But to me, the important question is, does it matter?
Does it matter? No.
Does it matter if you're human?
Doesn't matter. No.
You have a conscience.
Like,
you're happy, I guess. Like,
we are here for a good time, not a long time. Come on.
True.
Until somebody decides that humans should live forever, and then we're all fucked.
Well, they've been working on it for a while.
Don't I know it? It's the worst. That's also one of the major themes of FMA is the search for immortality and the Philosopher's Stone. It's not a pleasant search.
So apparently you can find every theme and topic in science fiction and fantasy in this anime.
In Fullmetal Alchemist, yes, and it's so well done too. It's like, hey, you want a TV show about colonization, genocide, militarism, imperialism, war, the search for immortality,
so this is
cultural
just your
stratification.
Standard answer to everything. Fullmetal Alchemist, duh.
Fullmetal Alchemist. Not everything. The other one I talk about a lot is the Queen's Thief series by Megan Millen Turner. That is a book series.
Okay. Is it also science fiction or a different genre?
I would say that it's sort of sci-fi fantasy.
Okay.
More, or like political fiction, sort of. I convinced our sci-fi librarian that it should be considered sci-fi, if only because there is a novum, and the novum is guns. It's like a medieval, like it's set in like medieval Greece.
Okay.
It's medieval Greece, but with guns.
So it is a novum.
It is a novum. The guns are very important. They become very important to the plot. It's just such a good. It's a really, really good book series. Unfortunately, it takes the author like 5 years to read, or 5 years to write a new one. I love you, Megan, but you're really slow. Not that you're probably listening to this.
Right.
If you are, I love you, Megan. Please keep writing.
So, I want your opinion on whether or not something counts as science fiction. But something like the TV show Sherlock, because he has these more than what a normal would have, like his observing powers.
Observational skills.
Yes.
It really... See, you probably, like, I sort of wish you had asked me this, like, 2 years ago, back when I was still, like, in the fandom and liked the show. It sort of... I actually have a video up on my laptop right now called Sherlock is Garbage and Here's Why. It's 2 hours long and it's super cathartic for me. But it is tangentially related to science fiction, if only because Sherlock Holmes is canonically an ancestor to Spock.
Okay.
From Star Trek. Yeah.
How does that work?
Apparently, in the Star Trek universe anyway, Sherlock Holmes was an actual person.
Okay.
And just Spock is his descendant, so, you know.
I just wondered, because there are other shows that involve being hyper-observant. Mm-hmm. And it's not a normal human trait. And so I wondered if it verged towards sci-fi or what else it could be called.
It's definitely more of, like...
crime show.
It's crime or mystery or whatever, but those do tend to cross over into sci-fi a lot. Mm-hmm. Like, the very first ever, like, murder mystery was, I believe, written by Edgar Allan Poe. And he also had, like, a big scientific background. Like, he also wrote one of the first essays on the Big Bang and everything. So it's all sort of interrelated. And science fiction is always sort of the jack of all genres, I guess. It just crosses over into everything. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm just gonna go into horror or fantasy or just...
Yeah, it can go in a lot of directions. It just
keeps going. You want an alternate history? Here's an alternate history, but with, like, robots. So.
Yeah, speaking of robots, we read Rossum's Universal Robots this semester. Have you read that? The Czech play that introduced the term robots.
Oh, no, she told us about it.
Okay. So we read that this semester. That was very interesting. I really enjoyed it because it brought up some questions. Like, does it matter if humanity goes extinct? If there is a superior race, I guess, that's left at the end, so that robots take over, but humans are gone. And so it's like, do we matter in the grand scheme of things because there's something better taking our place?
Or if we're just like an evolutionary step, but like a really weird evolutionary step
that lasts forever.
Between us and robots, just there's that one super, like, tangential evolution. Mm-hmm.
They're not robots in the mechanical sense. They are biological, but they were termed robots, and that is where the term robot comes from. But they are biological creatures that just originally don't have a full soul or full range of emotions, and then there's, like, a revolution. And they take over. They kill everyone.
They're sort of like golems in the Jewish tradition, except for the killing everyone and taking over thing.
Not sure.
Because the thing about golems is like, I don't want to step on any toes, so if you are Jewish, please feel free to correct me. But this is my understanding of golems, is that they are specifically a Jewish creature that was built by humans. They're made of clay, and they have a scroll of instructions that you put in their mouth, and that brings them to life. And they follow the instructions that you give them, generally like guarding the humans under their care. So that's like the very first story of a robot, but it's like a religious creature in Judaism. So.
Okay, I've never heard of that.
Yeah, and I have come across people telling off other people before about how in fantasy, like a few different worlds, I guess, use golems, but like take away their Jewish roots. Instead, just use them as like a normal creature. And I don't want to do that because like it's still very intrinsic to the society, or at least that's my understanding of it. But I also feel like that's interesting that we've had this idea of just a not quite human being that's still, or just like a being that humans make and program with instructions, and just sort of like an artificial beings have, been around in the human consciousness for so long.
I know. This play, I think, it was written in the early 1900s, but I can't remember the exact date. But the whole goal was that they were taking over production of labor so that humans could sit around and do nothing all day and not have to do manual labor. But it was just fascinating because of how early it was written. And just the idea back then of the revolution. And this was written in the Czech Republic, which is also, this is a global science fiction class I'm taking, so I find it very interesting to read science fiction from other places, because I think I've only really read and seen science fiction from the United States.
Yeah.
So this is a really good exploration into other things. And I can't say that I've ever read anything else from the Czech Republic.
Yeah. But you've read that.
I've now read that.
Yeah. I know I definitely want to look into more global science fiction, especially seeing as, like, I know I personally have become aware of how, centered in the Western tradition most of my media consumption is. So, and, like, that's not a way to live anymore, really, because we're just such a global society. Thank you, Internet.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely Western, European, American. I can't say that movies, I definitely haven't seen a lot of international movies. That's just not something I've ever really done, or TV shows, really. But I have read some, global books, but they weren't necessarily science fiction. Yeah. So it's exciting to get to read some global science fiction. The unit we're on right now is primarily United States, because it's the golden era of science fiction, and that was mainly in the United States. But we did read Baby HP from Mexico. I don't know if you read that one.
No.
It is all about harnessing power from children.
Yikes.
You strike this apparatus on the apparatus on the child, and you harness their power. You feed them sugar so they go crazy and run around and do their thing. And you get to save that power up. You can sell the power off and make money. And this was written, I think, in 1952. And so we were talking about...
The inspiration for Monsters, Inc.
Oh, man. I never thought of that.
Like, I don't think it was, but if it was, that would be hilarious.
It might be. Because that is brilliant. I did not think of that.
We should also consider Monsters, Inc. science fiction, because, like, these monsters live in a separate universe, and they have total control of, like, universe jumping.
It's about alternate sources of energy. That is definitely science. And it's fictional.
And they also it's just normal in their world to just open a door and you're in a different universe.
Make the child scream.
It's fine.
Oh man,
my gosh.
man, that is brilliant. I did not think of that. And if we weren't talking on a public podcast, I would bring it up in class and make it my idea. Take credit for it.
You can also, I mean, you can say it in class. I really don't care. I already took her class. It's fine.
Oh man.
Oh my gosh. But that's the sort of tangential thinking you're gonna need in her class to just sort of. That's how you spark discussions that take the entire class period.
People do it now, but I just feel like I haven't seen or read as much as everyone else. So they're mentioning all these movies. I'm like, oh man, I haven't seen that. And then when it is something I've seen, I'm like, I don't remember enough details to be able to, like they brought up Avatar today. I'm like, I know I've seen that movie, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, it's Murphy Cat people.
Really? I thought.
Well, if you're talking about Avatar, the Last Airbender, the TV show, that's a different thing. There's Avatar, the Last Airbender, the movie, which we don't talk about because it doesn't exist. And then there's Avatar, the James Cameron movie.
That's what I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah, which is Pocahontas with blue cat people.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, like the
definitely knew the Pocahontas thing. I didn't.
It's Pocahontas with blue people. I'm sorry.
Living in trees.
And apparently there's going to be a second one. I heard that somewhere.
I feel like I heard that a long time ago, but it's been quite a while since the original movie came out.
No one cares, James Cameron. No one cares.
I don't know, that movie was incredibly popular when it came out.
I know, I remember seeing it. And I remember thinking, that left very little impression on me.
Well, for me, it suddenly became my favorite movie on Facebook. On my profile, it was like, oh, favorite movie's Avatar. And here I am sitting here, and I couldn't tell you anything about it. Like, I don't remember. But at the time, it struck me as being important.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's like one of the highest grossing movies of all time. Mm-hmm. Or at least it was when it came out. And it's just like, name any of the main characters.
Or, yeah. But also, I think a lot of it had to do with special effects. I think people really, really enjoyed the special effects, and that was part of its popularity.
Yeah, it was a very pretty movie. Mm-hmm. It just didn't, like, there's no fandom. There's no discussion of it anywhere.
I couldn't even tell you the actors that were in the movie. Let alone the character names.
I don't know the character names. I don't know the actors' names. I don't know anyone who worked on it except for James Cameron, and even that might be wrong.
I don't know. I think that's right.
That's just how bad this is. Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Anytime anyone mentions anything, it's another, like I've got this list of, oh, that's a movie I haven't seen. Oh, that's a movie I haven't seen. But then I'm sitting here like, when am I going to watch?
What am I actually going to do with
these 300 movies that I've never seen?
Yeah, you put it on the list, and then the list just keeps getting longer.
Yeah.
Like the list of all the books that I need to read.
I know.
List of all the webcomics to read, list of all the movies to watch, all the TV to watch. I still haven't started Stranger Things, even though my parents and my sister are both like, hey, you need to watch Stranger Things.
It is incredible.
See, I keep hearing that, but at the same time, I'm just like, I'll get to it eventually.
It is pretty perfect in combining 80s nostalgia with science fiction with fantasy.
All right, then.
It is... Oh, I love it so much. And it's got a little bit of horror elements to it. And so I've had to talk my family members into watching it because most of them don't like anything that's sort of scary at all. But I tell them it's worth it.
Yeah. I know I'm not big on like horror, but mostly because I don't want to have to sift through all of the movies that are just jump scares. Because I hate jump scares because it's not scary, that's cheap.
Yeah.
Like,
it's not psychological in any way.
Yeah,
well,
like,
it is, but
I like I like the creeping horror, the sort of slow building
suspense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I love that, and to not have it pay off with just a jump scare because that just irritates me.
I can't handle it at all. Like none of them. I mean, I watched PG-13 movie Disturbia with Shia LaBeouf and had to Google the spoilers like 10 minutes in so that I could manage watching that movie. Like, I can't handle scary things.
Oh my gosh. Like, yeah, I can definitely handle suspense more than I can handle jump scares. I just don't like being startled.
Yeah.
Like, it's just irritating. Like, it starts making me angry, and then I don't want to feel angry while I'm watching a movie. So, unless it's like righteous indignation, right. Because that's a different thing. But, yeah. So horror, and it's so sad because science fiction and horror cross over like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like the very first science fiction novel was also a horror novel. It's Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
So I actually had a debate with my mom and my dad actually about if Frankenstein was considered science fiction or not. Because I know my dad is one of those ones who's just like, no, Isaac Asimov's I, Robot was the first science fiction, and I'm sitting here like, listen.
That was my dad and my brother's favorite series, was the Foundation series by Asimov, but I never picked it up and read it. But it's supposed to be, a classic, phenomenal series. But that's one I couldn't get into. I'm not sure I tried very hard. I was like 8 years old when they're trying to hand me all of these books.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But so what was the consensus after you had this debate about Frankenstein? Was there a consensus?
There's never a consensus when I have a debate with my family.
Right. Is there ever?
No.
With anybody's family?
Oh my gosh. No, but I stand by Mary Shelley and Frankenstein is the origins of science fiction. Mm-hmm. Or at least science fiction as we know it.
I mean, it is science fiction.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're engineering new life forms. That's science fiction.
And then he's refusing to take care of his big, strong son. The true monster is fathers refusing to take care of their children.
Yeah. I've heard it's all about a tale of being a bad parent.
Yup.
I haven't read it. We did watch a short film version by Thomas Edison.
Interesting.
Or it was at least his company. We watched it in class, and it was another silent film, black and white. But I don't know that I've had that much exposure to Frankenstein in general. My exposure to media was limited growing up because I was homeschooled until I was in 8th grade. And so I only got to read and watch what my parents let me read and watch.
Yeah.
And so it was very limited. And so I think that's part of why I haven't seen a lot of these science fiction movies. We didn't really have a TV for a long time. So I'm learning a lot now that I'm not homeschooled. Not that I didn't learn a lot, but learning a lot more about things that I never got to read.
Love your mom and dad.
Right. So, I mean, I read, like, Ender's Game, and I got to watch Stargate with my dad, and he tried to get me into Lord of the Rings, but they were too long.
Oh, same. Like, I'm sorry, I can only read so much about the grass in the Shire.
Yeah. Beyond that, I was allowed to watch a bunch of 80s TV shows, like Magnum P.I. and MacGyver, and Saved by the Bell. So I have a very limited scope of knowledge about television and movies.
Yeah.
So
just like go on Netflix and like look in the science fiction tab
and just watch them all.
Just figure it out,
Spring break, I know what I'm doing.
Oh man, just binge it, the whole thing.
Yeah.
Just whatever, just pick one and go.
I mean, there's so many out there. Everyone keeps bringing up 2001. I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
What else?
Blade Runner.
I haven't seen Blade Runner.
Yeah.
So, I actually have watched a few in the last few years. I used to be the president of a physics and astronomy club at a school I used to go to. And we did a sci-fi movie night once a month. And then we would go to the observatory afterward. And I don't know why that didn't even cross my mind that we did that. But I feel like over the years, we kept watching the same movies over and over again because the club members would change and we would just watch the same movies every semester. Yeah. So one of them was, I'm trying to think of the name of it, the one mocking Star Trek.
Oh, gosh. Was it Galaxy Quest?
Yes.
Oh, I love Galaxy Quest.
I feel like we watched Spaceballs at one point. So it was a lot of, like, the goofier ones.
It was, parody sci-fi.
Oh, and then Fifth Element, I know we watched. That's Bruce Willis. Orange hair girl. Yeah. I can't think of the rest of them. Oh, I know we watched Wrath of Khan. Isn't that a Star Trek movie?
That's Star Trek 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, you know what? I'm sitting here like, oh my gosh, I have seen some science fiction movies.
Like,
now that I think about it.
Oh, wait. I actually... That might be a fun thing to do, like, for the lab.
Mm-hmm.
Just, Twitch stream a movie, sort of Mystery Science Theater 3000 style.
Mm-hmm.
Just sort of...
Because can't you chat on Twitch?
Yeah.
Okay, so then people can sit there and respond and have a conversation about popular sci-fi.
If anyone out there would like to do that, let us know. Like we
can watch Avatar. Now that we've made it sound so appealing, we could watch Avatar together.
I mean, I would be Mystery Science Theatering the shit out of that film. Oh my gosh.
I actually don't know what that means because I've never seen that one.
Oh.
But I'm just going to nod and smile and laugh and agree with you.
Mystery Science Theater 3000 was like the very first movie reviewing sort of like TV show thing. It's on Netflix now. So it's this one guy and these two robots. And they're just, I think they're on a spaceship. And they're just sitting around like I think they're stuck in space, so they have nothing else to do, so they're sitting in the spaceship's movie theater, and they're just like they're just talking about the movies on the screen. The movies are like bad. these are bad movies. This is oh gosh, it's like I can't remember it. It's something like Santa Claus Conquers the Martians or something like that. Like, that type of science fiction.
So. Skiffy.
Yes, exactly. The most skiffy.
Yeah.
Everything that is the most skiffy. And it's a bad skiffy, too.
Okay.
Like, it's not like fun skiffy. Or it's like, it's fun because it's bad.
Right.
You know? So bad it's good.
I guess that's kind of the point of skiffy, though.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there might be some skiffy that's just fun.
I think that the kids in my class classified Doctor Who as skiffy.
Yeah, that's pretty skiffy.
I've only seen one season of it, and I think it was randomly like the fourth. No, I don't know. I'm trying to think
which doctor was it?
I feel like it was David Tennant.
I mean, it probably was.
It may, but I saw some others with I don't know all their names, but my sister watched it, so I just started joining her, and we would watch the episodes. But I watched that one isolated season with no, background
no context.
Exactly.
Zero context.
And I had no idea that the doctor changed. Like, I was so unaware. So then at the end of the season, when the doctor's changing, I'm sitting there like, no, this can't happen. I'm invested in these characters. You can't just change it on me. And I never watched it again. I get really invested in characters.
No, that's me. That is me all the time.
I mean, that's why I wrote fan fiction.
That's why I read fan fiction.
Exactly. You get invested in the characters. That's why fan fiction exists.
It's like you see a bunch of characters and you're just like, there's a story here and I want to tell it.
Yeah.
And that's how fan fiction starts. I've actually there's a lot of like people writing articles and whatever about fan fiction, and one of them really really stuck with me was that fan fiction is just a different genre of fiction. It's just character-based fiction. And, like, the only reason it's fan fiction and not, like, original fiction is because it's so much easier to,
use a canon that exists?
Like, yeah, because... And, like, characters that already exist. Like, because, like, the characters in, like, TV shows or whatever, they have, like, these few distinct traits that you can see. And then the fandom's just like, I like these traits, let's extrapolate from that. So...
It gets real funky sometimes, though.
It can get real funky.
People take it too far sometimes. Not that I didn't love it or love it now if I, read some, but some of it's so out there.
Some of it's you're just like, dark fic.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, dark fic.
I mean, there's all sorts of, you just fall down a rabbit hole and then you read something, you're like, I can't believe I just spent 17 hours reading this. Like, well, was that a waste of my time, or was it,
Or was this genius?
Exactly.
Was this the best way to use my time? Oh man, that's another thing that we should probably do, the Sci-Fi Lab Guide to Fanfiction.
I don't know that I want to guide anyone towards any fanfiction, because then they know what I've spent my time reading, and not all of it is good. Like,
No, you don't guide them to fanfiction. We'll just do like, here's some fanfiction vocabulary for those who feel the need to explore.
Okay. That's better.
Here's a good fanfiction website. Here are some terms you should probably know.
Here's how you sort it to get better results.
Here's the things you Google to make sure that you don't get all of this shit over here.
Right. Oh, man.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart to go into the fanfiction world. Like, you have to be dedicated to that fandom to go into the fanfiction world.
And then it still depends, because some fandoms, especially some fandoms I've been in, is these people sort of self-select for who's actually writing the fan fiction. And like some of it is like, I go into a fandom and I'm sitting here like, wow, I have not found a fan fiction I do not like for this.
So this is
for this one pairing, or for this one.
Fan fiction to me doesn't just exist on the internet though, because I have novels that were written about Stargate SG-1, the series, and they weren't anyone who wrote the episodes for the series, and so to me those are fans writing fiction in this canon, but they just have to be published, and they're kind of like endorsed by the creators of the TV show.
Yeah, they do that a lot with like Star Trek did that too.
I feel like
the Star Trek novels that accompanied.
None of these Stargate ones are any good. Sorry to those authors, that's awful. But I mean, it's like reading fan fiction, but it's almost more boring. Like,
because it's like also beholden to publishing standards,
and it doesn't ever break away from the canon.
Yeah. So
it can't get as funky as fan fiction online.
But it also, that means it also can't get as fun either. Like, sorry, you're not gonna have a Star Trek novel where they're all working in a coffee shop called Enterprise.
Right. That sounds great, actually. Maybe we should write a guide to fan fiction so people can find these stories we've read.
Well, maybe not the stories that we've read, but some good ones.
Definitely not the ones I've written.
Oh, gosh.
Those would never appear on that list.
Y'all will never find my AO3 account, alright?
Or fanfiction.net.
No, there are some things that are better left in the dark.
I'm going to have to look up my username and see if it can be linked to my in real life name and change it, because I said my name on this podcast. You people can find anything. I believe it.
Just straight up delete it.
I know, I'm going to have to.
Just take it down.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God.
I will just add a disclaimer that I wrote most of that when I was 13 years old, and I'm now 25. So it's been a while. Don't blame me.
I, on the other hand, wrote an 11,000 word fanfiction last year.
Well, and I totally write fanfiction now. I'm just saying mine was so bad because I was 13 and had not yet been formally educated in any way, shape, or form. So,
oh my God.
Don't blame me for how bad my Nancy Drew fanfiction is.
I mean, we could also do something on, like, seeing as, like, fan fiction and science fiction really, really go hand in hand. We could do, like, an entire, like, maybe the next episode could just entirely be about that. That'd be fun.
I love fan fiction. So.
Let's do it.
It was what obsessed me in high school.
Isn't that always the way though? It's like high school is where you find it.
Mm-hmm.
When you find it, and you're just like, oh no.
I mean, I was so obsessed, and I didn't have a smartphone in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a laptop until later on in high school. And so I'm like so invested in these stories I'm reading that I would just print them off and staple them and take them with me to school. And on the bus, I'm reading fan fiction that I've printed out. And then, I'm just like hoping no one's peeking over my shoulder. Like, what are you reading? That looks really weird. But I was just so invested that I would print off. I'm talking about 170,000 word stories. And I'm just like printing those off. Like,
I'm so glad that I had got internet on my Kindle because my parents would be very concerned if I started printing out like big ass documents.
Right.
It's like there would be questions, and I am not about that life.
It's a paper, Mom. I wrote an essay. A very long, weird essay.
Super long, super weird. Don't worry about it. Shh, don't worry about it. Ah!
Oh, man.
That and then the school Wi-Fi starts, the school firewall start getting smart. Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I'm just probably lucky I didn't have a smartphone in high school because I maybe wouldn't have done well in high school.
Your productivity goes way down.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, I accidentally accessed the internet on my phone once and they charged me like $75. Okay, never mind. Never again.
Never again. Except for now, smartphones, you're like
constantly on it.
Everyone has the internet at all times.
No.
Because we're all cyborgs. Has Lisa talked to you about everyone who's cyborgs yet? We're probably going to also have a cyborg episode where we just talk about how we're all cyborgs.
Makes sense to me. It's not even just phones. I mean, there's all sorts of things that make us cyborgs.
Everyone is cyborgs. Listen, some of us are just a little bit more cyborg than others.
No. It's true.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that we should probably end this off here right now.
Long talk. Fan fiction.
Get used to it. Get used to it. The show is just gonna keep going. Hopefully we'll get, I don't know, better maybe?
I don't know, this is my first try. I feel like I've done all right.
This is about par.
Okay.
Really. So
I'm on par, guys.
We're on par, guys. Guys, we're on par.
It's like sort of getting a thumbs up.
Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Bye.
Bye.